everyone. Welcome to another episode of Anything and Everything with Donna Lisa. I'm your host, Donna Lisa, and today, my special guest today, I'm so excited for this because I've been waiting, is Mr. Amani Roberts. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Donna.
Yeah, months or maybe like a year of planning, right, to get you on here.
A year.
But we're here,
yes.
So it's all good. Backstory for everyone listening and tuning into my YouTube channel. Amani and we met like in 2015.
Yeah.
I think I was working at the Westin Hotel. Mm-hmm. You were in the industry. You still are.
Yes.
But you were part of MPI, which is Meeting Professionals International. And I was recruited to do membership. And so you were in town for a conference. We met, and you were kind of coaching me through it. It was kind of short-lived for me for the association. Now I'm heavily involved in associations, but that was one of the first.
Good.
So here we are, fast forward.
Yeah, 10 years later.
Yes, because you were in LA.
Yes.
And now you're in Vegas.
I am. Mm-hmm.
So you're an author now.
I am.
The Quiet Storm recently and DJs Mean Business. You're also an entrepreneur, you're a DJ, and you're a professor.
Right. And speaker.
So,
We're speakers
and a speaker,
too.
That's right, international keynote speaker.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you have a lot of things on your resume. That's awesome.
It is.
Now,
Thank you.
Let's talk about what brought you to Las Vegas and why did you leave LA? Because LA is just full of a lot of opportunities.
It is. You know, I moved, I've been in LA for about 17 years, almost 17 years. And I lived in other cities across the U.S., but I felt like, it was time for a change. Vegas is a great place to be a speaker, great place to be a DJ, and it's also cheaper to live here. So you kind of factor those in. Also, like personally, was going through some things, so kind of hit a plateau in like life and work and business. So it was, and I had the opportunity to leave or to move and change it up. So I said, okay, let's try this.
So you didn't come here for a job, obviously, because you work for yourself.
Right.
You just uprooted and came here. Okay. And it's funny when you say it's cheaper to live. I mean, cheaper than LA for sure. But for a lot of us who have been here I've been here about 18 years now, it's so much more expensive than it used to be. Were you shocked at at the prices? Of course, it's cheaper than California, but coming here from what you know, because you used to travel here all the time.
Yeah, maybe I was a little surprised, but no, it still seems okay for what you get here. I know that people here in Vegas think there's a lot of traffic. It's not that bad, because I remember coming from LA, so it's all about perspective and context. But Vegas is an interesting place to be. I'll tell you a funny story is that I think I've had more people visit me here in my kind of almost year and a half than the last 12 years in LA. So people will come here and visit, and that's a good thing.
That is true. That is true. When I first moved here from California, I think the first year everyone's like, hey, I'm coming into Vegas. And I'm like, why? So
conferences, shows, all the things.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you're pretty much set here. You're settled. It's been a year and a half. Mm-hmm. What do you get booked for the most? Is it more the DJ side or speaking?
Well, that's changing every day. I'd say it's kind of shifting from DJ to now more speaking. Mm-hmm. Also, I still get booked for a lot of things that are out of town, whether it be in California, St. Louis, D.C., like all over. And that's continuing to grow. So it's really, I can really kind of set up my home base wherever because I'm going different places to work, either speaking or DJing. So it's that continues to kind of evolve.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then you still teach.
I do.
Which college do you teach
Cal
at?
State University, Fullerton. So I teach there. I go back and forth. I kind of stay quiet so they don't really, they know, but it's still, you just kind of stay on the radar. And I love it.
Do they need you to reside there? Is that kind of what they're asking for?
Sometimes, but since I'm like part-time or adjunct, there's more flexibility in everything. So I still have like a house or a room there, an address that I use. So that helps me. I still pay my taxes in California, all that stuff. So, but still teach. Yeah. I love it. And
I'm sorry you still pay taxes in California.
It's okay. It is. Small sacrifice. It's fine. Yes. Yeah.
So what class do you teach?
So I teach primarily music business. I love teaching the music business. I also coach people, musicians who don't take my classes. I also coach them about how to make better business decisions. Because we all hear stories about how musicians don't own their rights. Maybe they're not collecting all their money. They don't know how to grow their career, particularly in this kind of era where it went from mechanical, which is like physical album sales. We've shifted to a streaming economy, and most musicians don't make any money off streaming. It's all about touring, and you have to also maybe get some sync placements on your songwriting, direct fan to artist to fan platforms. There's a lot of things they have to do now, whereas in the past they could rely on physical album sales.
So so music business is all about the business side of it.
Business of music.
Yeah. No, I hear that a lot where a lot of creatives are they're creative, right? But they're just not, they don't have that business sense.
Yeah. So my goal is to try to close the knowledge gap, particularly for musicians and like the whole industry. So they know what they can do. If they want to sign with the label, they have the proper education so they make the best decisions. If they don't, they also have a roadmap on how they can create a sustainable career.
How many musicians are out there?
There's really? Thousands upon thousands of musicians across the world. I primarily focus like U.S. and Canada because we have like performing rights organizations, ASCAP or BMI. I'm sure you might have heard that before. And then you have other platforms that help you. It's just a lot to navigate. But remember, like we're used to it because we're entrepreneurs. But for a musician, they just want to write songs, record songs, sing songs, primarily. Right. They don't want to have to worry about, I got to put up this post on social media. I have to create this Discord. I have to go onto Patreon. I have to do my email newsletter. Right. They don't really understand or really want to continue to do that. So if I can show them how to set it up so it's a little bit more automatic, then they benefit.
And they can just hire somebody, right? Like a lot of people don't want to do social media.
Right. They could hire someone, but then you have to choose. Do you want to hire a social media person, or do you maybe want to hire either a manager or a lawyer who can help and protect you from losing money? So there's what you have to choose. Who do you want to hire? And then hopefully that person will allow you to do more, maybe get more business. So it's until they get to a certain level, and then they can get someone to do it.
Okay. Yeah. And then when you do a lot of your keynote speaking gigs, what topics do you speak on?
Yeah, so I have like probably 3 main topics. My main topic is called Resilient and Brilliant, 7 Keys to Unlocking Your Creativity.
Okay.
And so I talk to people, primarily hospitality professionals, because we suffer from burnout a lot and we kind of hit the wall in terms of not being creative. So I talk about just different ways to unlock your creativity. Okay. I use kind of stories from the artists that are in my book, the groups that are in my book, to show how they were either resilient, you collaborate with others, you are persistent, you stay curious, kind of different little themes as part of the framework. So that's one topic. I also talk about resilience specifically. I think the title is called like No is Just a Detour, Not Your Final Destination. That's the topic on resilience. And then also have been getting a lot of requests and talk about just the whole book writing process. That's more like workshop, keynote, but that's a big topic that's getting popularity. And then within the music industry, I also talk about just making more money as a musician.
Okay, yeah, because I've heard musicians don't make a lot of money. Also, when it comes to writing a book, I feel like, because that's something that is on my bucket list, right? On top of everything else I do. But everyone's starting to write books because it's so much easier now to get a book published. But it's still a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. My last book took 4.5 years. There's a stat I love to quote from the New York Times where they said that 81% of people in America have a book inside of them. 4% will start it. And then 4% of that 4% will finish it. So if you just take in perspective, like you have a crowd of 300 people, so 240 people have like a book inside of them. Maybe like 12 people will start it, and then maybe 1 person will finish.
Really?
Yeah. So it's the hardest part about writing a book is finishing the book and releasing it.
Yeah, or starting any project. Are you seeing that a lot more? I mean, I feel like after, and I hate to keep saying like after COVID and all this, but that's when everyone started coming up with a lot of creative ideas and like starting new businesses and whatnot. Because back in the day, it was like if you're not, in that line of work, you have no business writing a book, right? Yeah. Unless you're like some celebrity where people want to write a book about you and all that. But I know a ton of people right now that are writing books.
That's good because I think the barriers to entry is lower now. You can do self-publishing, you can do hybrid publishing, or you can get a traditional publishing deal. Okay. And more people are talking about it and they see more people that are like them writing books. So then, they're like, okay, well, if you can do it, then I can do it too. And then when they see people release it, like I was fortunate, we worked really hard on the release. And so we were able to get on a USA Today's bestseller list number 50, which was great. And that was a lot of work. And so people see that and it helps them to become inspired to say, oh, well, maybe I can do that too. Yeah. And then they just have to get their idea on paper and be consistent and keep at it.
So let's talk about your book, The Quiet Storm.
Yes.
What exactly is it about?
So The Quiet Storm reviews the history of R&B groups from the 50s to the mid-2000s. Most of the book's first 75, 80% of it kind of takes you through decade by decade. There you go.
This is the book, guys, right there.
It takes you through the top 10 or 11 groups, and I rated them based on Grammy nominations and wins, record sales, Billboard Hot 100 hits, and then notable performances. And so I always say notable performances because back in like the 50s, 60s, and part of the 70s, a lot of R&B groups, if they were on like The Tonight Show or they were singing at the Kennedy Center, that was rare. So that's a notable performance.
Okay.
So we take you through each decade, the groups.
Right.
And then the last 20% is what happened to the groups, why they disappear, and what will happen next. So,
now I got to buy a book and read it because that's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking at the cover.
Mm-hmm. Do you know all the groups on the cover?
I do. It's most, well, they look familiar.
Okay,
but,
the Isley Brothers, they were here a month ago.
Okay, yep. I know Beyonce, but what is Destiny's Child?
There you go, Destiny's Child.
My memory.
Yeah, bottom right, Diana Ross.
Is this new? Yeah, and then is this new edition?
Good. 3 out of the 4. Good job. Yeah.
See, they look like baby. Well, they are babies here. I remember singing their songs when I was like 7.
Okay, what's your favorite new edition song?
Cool It Now.
Okay.
We used to sing, my cousins and I used to sing it. Yeah.
Good.
So I love it. I definitely got to read it.
Many groups you grew up with will be in there, and you'll recognize.
So you reference a lot of those groups.
Groups. I list. Like you could look, when you look through it, you'll see like the charts there.
Yeah.
You'll see like every group. I pick like my favorite songs. Okay. Then I also talk about the samples. So what kind of current artists have sampled the groups? Because that's kind of how R&B continues to live. And then I share a little bit of my thoughts on each group.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So have your students all read your book?
So some of them got it. It's kind of, you have to be a little
homework assignment.
Well, it should be a required reading, but they're a little bit particular when it comes to having your book as like the required book in class. So I have it as recommended, and then the key will be if I can create a class about the book, then that's the goal right there. So that's future goals.
So how do you feel the music industry has evolved?
Ooh, that's a layered question.
I know.
That would be a whole episode.
Because you talk about how people now they used to have to go to the music like Sony Records and all. They don't have to do that anymore. No.
So the music industry has evolved both ways, from the musician side and then also from us, the consumer. So if we take the consumer side, whereas we used to have to buy like albums, CDs, all that.
Then Tower Records.
Tower Records. Yes, exactly. There you go. Which I'm going to come back to. And then it shifted to, then iTunes came and you were able to download your music. You still had to pay for it, but you had to download it. But then you could only download the songs you wanted. Whereas before we had to buy the whole album pretty much to get the song.
Okay,
you could get a single here and there, but for the most part, you had to buy the whole album to get the songs. Then we went through Napster, which took us to iTunes, where you could download specific songs, and then streaming came along, whereas you can pretty much get everything for free. So the value of music has decreased. The relative or the perceived value of music has decreased because now people can go on YouTube, you can go on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, get everything for free. Maybe you pay for a subscription, but if you don't, you just have to listen to ads. So what that's done is that it makes music easier to get as a consumer. Then when you have the creator side, it's so easy now to record a song. You can mix and master it from your home. I mean, props to Billie Eilish and her brother, Phineas, because they released a Grammy Award-winning diamond or not diamond.
From their home, right?
From their home.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was brilliant. And they won awards and it was great. So they showed that you don't really need the studios. And I'm not sure if they were independent at the time, but nowadays people can release music. You can be independent. You can get on, not really a lot of radio, but you can get a lot of streams and grow. Right. And so it's much easier to release music. And then you look at record labels, whereas they were primarily the gatekeepers between record labels, radio stations, and the DJs. Now it's different because you have your own like TikTok accounts. You can find a song on TikTok. You release your YouTube, all that. So it's definitely lowered the barriers. It's made it easier to release music.
Right.
It's harder for musicians to be, I want to say like, long lasting. Like we grew up, you had a group like TLC was big throughout the entire 90s.
Right.
New Edition was big through like the 80s and 90s. You have a group like the Isley Brothers, one of my favorite, because they've been big since the 50s and they're still big now.
Okay.
But nowadays you'll have someone pop off with a hit on TikTok and then
they die off
quickly.
Yeah.
Or you want to go see them perform live, but they're not ready yet. So it's just complex.
Do you feel, because I'm curious, and I know this is one of the questions off topic or a sidebar. Do you feel that the record labels helped with, because I hear both sides, like record labels. That's why everyone doesn't want to go through a label. They want to be their own, independent. Correct. So there are upsides of actually having a label behind you because they help you get tours and prep you to be able to, keep I guess, creating music and albums so that you have enough to tour.
Yeah, record labels are very advantageous, particularly for like getting your song on like radio, getting you good radio spins, helping you properly map out a tour. Maybe they give you tour support. So there are advantages, but there are also disadvantages. Like record labels, they need to be paid too. They're investing in art. They own you. They own your IP.
Yeah.
So, that's why, especially a lot of the more legacy artists, I don't want to say old artists, I'll call them legacy artists, running up that hill. I'm trying to think of her name, who had that song from Stranger Things, but her label owned the rights to that song for like 30 years.
Really?
She just got it back, and then it was placed into Stranger Things, so she was able to fully benefit from having full ownership. And so that's just one small example, because labels will, if you don't know what you're signing, they could own your songs from now till forever.
Right.
So that's kind of the dark side of labels. Plus, they give you an advance, and if I give you an advance, you might think it's a loan. Oh no, you might think it's just your money, a signing bonus, like we did. But no, that's a loan. They need to recoup, so you got to pay that back. But a lot of artists don't know that, so then they go in debt to the labels. That's just why, if you know more, you can make the better decisions. So, but labels have definitely benefits. Just connecting you with proper producers, other artists, like it's complex. So I think what you'll see is a lot of artists will get to a point where they have a great community. They'll have like a lot of followers. They have some good listeners or viewers that will come and watch their tour. They get to a certain point, and then they have to get the help of the label to take them to the next level. That's what you'll start to see now.
Yeah. So I guess it does make sense that the music industry, I guess they're not expected to make as much as they used to back in the day, because
it's just different forms of income that they have to be aware of. Like back in the day, you primarily just focused on album sales. Nowadays, streaming, you're not getting money. Streaming is actually marketing, really. That's really marketing. Now you have to get money through your publishing. Make sure you own your publishing so that when your song is played in public or your song is put in a movie or a video game, you're getting the revenue. You just have to work a little harder and diversify your income streams within music to get more money nowadays than before.
Interesting. Well, thanks for that.
Of course, anytime.
Yeah, no, I love it. So with your DJ, you've been DJing for how long now? Like
now I'm into my 18th year.
18th. Wow.
Yeah.
So what got you into DJing?
When I was younger in college, I went to go see Biz Markie.
Ooh,
so
I
DJ
like
Biz
him.
Markie, say he's just a friend. I was at college at Howard University in D.C. Saw him at a club called Quigley's, and he was amazing. And I said, I want to do what he does.
Okay.
And unfortunately, at the time, I didn't think it was a legitimate career. So I kept what he did in the back of my mind. I traveled around. I moved to I used to work for Marriott, so I moved to Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Miami, back to D.C., and then L.A. Wow. And in every city, I would go watch the DJs and just see them. Finally, when I got to L.A., I said, okay, I'm going to learn how to DJ. I just made the decision.
Yeah.
At first, I was self-taught, but then I went to Scratch Academy, which is like a college.
I didn't know there was an academy for that. Okay.
Scratch Academy all over the country. First was started in New York.
Okay.
Run DMC's DJ, Jam Master Jay, started in New York. Then he was murdered 6 months after he started it. But they kept it going, brought out the West Coast. So I went to Scratch Academy there.
Okay.
Kind of getting your master's degree in DJing. So I did that for a year. And then I went back for music production. So that's kind of how I got into DJing. Okay. And then through MPI, I was able to build my network, start to DJ bigger events, corporate events. I would also do clubs and bars and things too, and just continue to put all the work in. And that's kind of led me pretty much to where I am today.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So so you go back to Biz Markie. I thought he was an MC rapper. He was a DJ then.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that
he did
side
both.
of him.
He was once again, he didn't just one thing. He did he was a rapper.
Yeah.
He was a producer and he was a DJ too. Yeah. All the way up until when he passed away. May he rest in peace.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's the moneymaker for you?
For
me? Is it DJing individual, corporate events? I know there's a lot of social events as well. Or big conventions? I mean, what?
Yeah. So currently, for me, corporate events is probably the biggest one.
Okay.
Of course, I would love to get into more conventions. Also, I like doing lounges, once or twice a month.
Cool.
That's not where you get a lot of money, but that's fun. You get freedom and you can play. So I would think for me, for DJing, it's corporate events first, and then conventions, and then lounges and things like that.
So I saw something on social, because I'm always on social media, just looking at what the newest trends are, right? And there's a new thing they're doing in LA. It's all over LA, and I haven't yet seen it here. But they're doing these daytime coffee raves or parties, right? And you're, instead of being at the club. So for people who don't want to be at the nightclub, do you see that happening here eventually?
I hope so. I will be down to DJ that.
Well, that's a project we need to work on.
Let's make it happen.
I was talking to my daughter about it. And she goes, "Oh yeah, they do it all over LA." I'm like, I'm surprised they haven't done it here.
They should. That's a trend that's coming. I like that. That's good. 3 hours. You're at a coffee shop.
No one's getting drunk. They're just drinking coffee.
Just drinking coffee, enjoying some good music, meeting people. Maybe put your phones down for a little bit. Things like that. I welcome that trend, so we make it happen here. Let's pick a spot.
Yeah, for sure. Because I thought it was a cool thing. I'm like, this is kind of a cool vibe. And
it is.
I love that they have so many new areas here that are popping off in the neighborhoods, not necessarily on the strip.
Yes.
So people don't have to go to the strip or and hang out. And downtown's cool too.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I think there's been like 3 or 4 things that really pleasantly surprised me about Vegas. Number one is the quality of the food, particularly off the strip.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. And then you don't really realize that if you just come here to a convention or to party, you just think it's all the strip. But there's better restaurants, better venues off the strip than on the strip, Yeah. No offense to anyone on the strip, but still, that's just what my opinion.
No, I get it. It's a lot of the celebrity restaurants are on the strip, and people come there for that. But you're right. There are a lot of great restaurants off the strip, too, that are amazing. So, well, we're definitely going to, I'm interested. I'm excited now about that coffee party, the coffee rave, because that sounds fun. So let's go back to, so you're a DJ, you're an international speaker, you're an author.
Yes.
You're also a professor. With all those, I mean, you're a jack of all trades, right? What's that? We were just talking about this offline. That quote, you're jack of all trades, a master of none.
But oftentimes better than one. Let me see if I have the proper one, just because I want to quote it correctly. But it says, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
Right.
Yes.
So it's funny because I get that a lot. I'm in my 5th year of recording. Last year was kind of like an off year. It was so busy. But everyone's like, so are you still doing your podcast? I'm like, yeah, I'm working on getting more speakers. It's getting our schedules together, right? Yeah. Because it's not done virtually anymore. It's in person, and that's the hardest thing, is to get everyone's schedule to work with mine. Also being in events, but I also work in the live event space. Yeah. And then, I'm also involved in a lot of nonprofits. Just launched another networking association. Yeah. So I hear that a lot, where people are like, "What? Why do you do so much?" What's your take on that?
First of all, I think it's great that you do more than one thing. I think the way we are now is like, if you are just focusing on one thing, that gets stale and probably boring pretty quickly. But if you look at what you focus on, it's all related. It's not like you are a plumber and then you do like events, no offense to plumbers, and then you're like, a flight attendant or something. It's like everything you're doing is related. Like everything I do is all around music and the music business. Even when I speak, I always bring music into my speaking. I write books about the music. I DJ, that's music. I teach, it's music. So it's all related to music. And I think that we're so stuck on the old paradigm where you just do one thing and you do one thing for 25 years, you get your pension and that's it.
Right.
And I think that's the old way of thinking. And if anything, the pandemic should have taught us that if you do and have a couple different things that you do, and I don't want to say revenue streams because there's that, but if if you do some different things, like you're a podcast host, you plan events, you also help to run nonprofit, but it's all related. And so I just think that's an old paradigm that we should really work on changing, because the world is changing fast. So you should adjust to what it is that we like to say we do. Right.
No, I think evolution is great. Everyone needs to kind of evolve. The one thing a couple of years ago, last company I was with, they did, and it was especially after COVID, because after the pandemic, people were like, no, we can't change our business model. No, we shouldn't add more, inventory to our lines, right? But they said, look, the only thing that's constant is change. And it's so true, because look at how phones have evolved. Yes. Cell phones. Now everything is all AI based, right? Everyone's getting into AI. As much as some people still don't want it, it's already here. Yeah. So either you're just going to learn to embrace it and learn to work it into your lifestyle, or you're just going to get caught,
Yeah. Even
behind the game.
But even when I speak, I'm really just driving people to hire me as a DJ or a coach, but it's all around like one kind of system. And then there's different little parts of my ecosystem that tries to bring people into it.
Right.
And I just think that the sooner people adjust to that and maybe are open-minded, like you can speak to drive people to your business. Even if you're working for someone, you can do that, and that works. And so if we have a more open mind, I think it would help. And then we're not even talking about your own personal brand, like who is Donna?
Right.
Like that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, so how do you differentiate that? Like when you're speaking, I like that you mix in the music side of it, right? Because when you talk about creativity, that's of course music. And like, how do you engage with the corporate group? Because especially coming from the meeting side, most people are like, well, I just want to know how I can generate more sales.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Or build relationships with our clients. Those are the speakers that we're always used to at these conventions.
Right. Yeah. So if you take, let's build relationship with our clients. Like it's important for us to maintain and build relationships and collaborate with others. Well, a portion of my speech, when I talk about collaborate with others, I use Kool and the Gang as the example. So I'm sure you have like a favorite Kool and the Gang song.
Yeah, I can't even the top of
so
my head.
Celebration is like their biggest one.
That's the
Celebration,
popular one.
That's the popular one. So what I talk about is like for Kool and the Gang, they had Jungle Boogie was probably their biggest hit, and it got to like number 4.
Okay.
So they hit a plateau. They needed to collaborate with someone else to really get to the next level. So they hired a Brazilian producer, Yurmira Deodata, and they hired a lead singer, JT Taylor, and that helped them get to another level so that they hit that hit, Celebration, the number 1 song. That was their only number 1 song. They also had like Cherish, Joanna, a couple other number 2 songs. But because of the fact that they were able to collaborate with someone else, that allowed them to get to the next level. So then I'd ask you, who can you collaborate with that can help you get to the next level? If you're having trouble with sales, what is a venue? What is maybe a partner, a DMC partner or a destination management company that you can collaborate with to help you get your property, your hotel to the next level?
Right.
So I try to show the music example and then ask you and help you brainstorm who can you collaborate with to help you accomplish that and get more clients.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I teach the lesson through.
Okay.
I use music kind of as the vessel.
Okay, and it just ties into the whole meeting and events world, which is in hospitality. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You talk about collaboration. I'm big on collaboration. A lot of people. So recently, my previous guest, Chantel Love, she's amazing, also a book author and works in the corporate sector. But she mentioned she was at our event and said, if you guys remember that song OPP, was it Other People's Problems? How
property.
she promotes it, our property. There you go. For the younger kids that they don't know, they're like, what are you talking about? So OPP in her, just in her world is other people's platforms.
Oh,
and how do you use other people's platforms to get to where you want to get or get the exposure that you want, right? So she came on my podcast and she does a lot of collaboration with a lot of women networking groups to promote herself too. So I think that's kind of great. Yeah. A lot of people are doing that now.
Yeah, just cross-collaborating.
Yeah.
You appear on my podcast, I appear on yours.
Right.
You post something up on social media, I get tagged with collaborators. Also, maybe if you have something launching, I'll put it in my newsletter.
Right.
All different ways to collaborate and have access and take advantage of the benefit of someone else's platform.
Nice. And so what do you include in your newsletter to everyone who subscribes?
So my newsletter, I give you my favorite 7 songs for this current month or whatever that I've either learned through DJing or requested. I'll share what's going on new in like my world, my business. I'll also I usually share a really cool kind of motivational picture. A lot of times it's about like kind of sticking with it or moving forward. And then if I found a video that I like, for example, this past month, this was the first time I ever saw this video of Maggie Rogers, and she's playing her first hit to Pharrell. And just look at his facial reactions when he hears it, because he was like shocked, pleasantly shocked.
Okay.
So I share that video. And that's kind of some of the, I'll share my upcoming podcast episodes, either appearances that I'm making or for my own podcast. And then that's what I do. I need to do it more consistently. I do it about once a month. Now, when I was launching the book, I did it more frequently. Then after the book launch. To
create the buzz.
And everything. After the book launch, I was a little tired. So I had to go,
Well, we all kind of need to take some time off after. Yeah, because social media is a lot.
It is.
And promoting yourself now, because you don't have to pay for ads, really. I mean, you can on Facebook or whatever, but just to be able to be consistent on social media so people see and hear everything about your book. And then when the launch happens, you're like, okay, I need to kind of just unwind and disconnect from it for a bit. Yeah.
The challenge, though, is that really the work when you release a book really starts after you launch it.
After you launch
because then you have to spread the word. Then you're appearing on shows.
Right.
Then you're like trying to get, do author events like I did. I'm doing across the country. It's just, that's when the work really starts.
Okay.
Is, you build up to pre-launch.
Right.
Then you launch. And so you have like, that's part one.
Okay.
Now you're on like part two. And you just want to keep the momentum going.
Do you have like appearances right now at bookstores and stuff that you have scheduled?
Yeah, I just was at one yesterday, the Multicultural Bookstore up in North Las Vegas.
Okay.
And then I'm going to St. Louis for MPI World Education Congress. I'm going to do a book appearance before the conference. I have one in Baltimore.
Okay.
I'm working on one in Atlanta. So any city I travel to, I try to do that. I also do virtual events, book launch events. So yeah, it's just, and then, for me, it's primarily, I have the assistants. I work with a team called Book Launchers. They help me launch the book and they help me do PR. And so they're helping set up like podcast interviews. They helped me get on Fox 5 News here for the book launch. I also was on the CBS station here, and I was also on NBC. I was also on 92.3. So those things can happen. Then in June, June is Black Music Month. So then you're trying to kind of get
so
that
you're trying
involved.
to find places
it's just
to
never,
collect.
Oh, it just keep, and then
that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And then I'm really trying to get the book in the hands of the people that are in the book, so they can read it. Maybe they can do a testimonial. Then maybe I can interview them because the next step in the process is a documentary.
Okay. That's awesome. I was just, so that goes into my next question is.
Good segue.
What other projects do you have coming up?
That's the big one. The book is like the project, and then turning that into like a documentary would be like number one. Number two is that I also kind of started to coach people both in the music industry and then in hospitality. So that's kind of a second project I'm working on. And then it's so funny, but like 11 or 12 people have asked me separately if I'm going to release a trivia game to go with the book. And so that's like project number 3. Idea. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
So that's like project number 3.
Okay. So what's the time frame, do you think, for each project? I'm curious.
Yeah. So
because it took 4 years for this book,
4.5 years. Yeah. So the documentary, I don't know. I don't know anything about documentaries. So I have to learn. I'm looking for some people that might want to partner because you have to raise money.
Right.
Then you have to like find the people, interview them. Like it's a lot of, so I don't, maybe 3-5 years. I don't know for the documentary. Coaching is right now. So that's like kind of front and center.
Okay.
And then the trivia game, probably a year or two, just once I kind of get my footing and figure that out.
That sounds fun, yeah. Well, they keep saying, like, we're going to be the next, like Hollywood 2.0. Yeah. So you're going to get in contact with a lot of people on that side so that, you can probably collaborate. Yeah. OPP, other people's platforms, user platforms.
Okay, I won't forget that.
I'm just going to, Chantel, if you're listening, I'm going to start saying that was one takeaway that I took back from her speaking at our event. So it was awesome. But I like those projects. So, with those other side projects, how do you fit in just your, because a project alone is a lot.
It is.
But your day-to-day, pays your bills and, your DJ gigs and your speaking gigs. How do you squeeze all that in with all these other projects that you have? Yeah,
you budget your time, batch time. So I think really always first is like teaching, whether it's preparing for the upcoming class or grading papers. Like right now I have this cool project that the students did. They did like a music supervision project where they have to pair music to a video or something. So I got to grade those. Then also we have exams coming up. So I have to get ready for the exams. And then they have projects at the end of the semester. So I have to grade those. So that's it. Then once we get to like middle of May, then the school semester is pretty much over. So I have a break until August. But at the same time, like I'm still doing interviews on the podcast, kind of promoting the book. And I'm trying to find people who I can talk to about the documentary. So I really just like batch my time.
Right.
And, then you have to fill in your coaching clients there. So I really have a strong calendar, batch my time, make sure I build in networking opportunities. And that's it, really. Yeah. And I'm still learning. I'm still learning best practices because it can be better.
Okay.
That's kind of how I do it now.
But you're doing it. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? You don't know until you actually get in there and do it what's going to work, right?
Yeah.
So that's good. So now when the kids finish off the semester, you don't do any summer school classes?
No.
Okay, so that's your time to kind of take a break. Good for you.
Take a break. Well, really, then I travel because a lot of conferences are in the summer.
That is
and we
true.
didn't even talk about like finding speaking opportunities and doing all that. That's a whole nother like aspect that you want to grow. It's just you kind of have to figure that out too.
Yeah, you and I were talking about that last year.
Yes.
About speaking. So you're also... You were with the Nevada Speakers Bureau, or are you still with them at
So for them, so I'm not with any speakers bureaus yet.
Okay. But you go to their meetings.
I'm on the board of NSA, National Speakers Association, Las Vegas.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so that way I can go and learn. I can learn about the business and the craft of speaking, which is very valuable. So through that, then I can apply what I learned to try to solicit, like I spoke. So March was busy because I spoke for MPI in Northern California at their conference. Then I went to Sacramento and spoke. I DJ'd the opening reception, then had an author chat for the California Charter School Association. Then I did a speaker showcase in Nashville. So these like each different week. And so that was good. That was busy. And then this month I had a couple author chats both in Fullerton, here in Vegas, and I have one coming up in LA. So it's just trying to stack them up.
Right.
And then you always want to, some of them will be for free. Some of them will be paid. You always want to try to get more paid than free. And just build the resume. Then you get word of mouth, referrals. That's where the gold is. When people see you and they're like, "Oh, I saw you speak here. Are you open to speaking to our organization?" That's kind of where I'm trying to get it out there enough so people start to see me and then can refer me. And then you come up. Then you have in June for the MPI WC, I'm like the digital host. So I host the live broadcast in the morning and afternoon for 3 days, and then I'm speaking there also.
Okay. Wow. So you're busy. So you talk about your podcast. Are you talking? Is this a separate podcast from what you and Mandy do?
That's it. That's what I'm talking about. The Adventure in Business with Mandy Graziano.
Love her. She was She was one of my first in my inaugural year. So it was all virtual. Yeah. And love how she's grown. Her, her speaking business as well. So, and coaching.
Yes,
and
coaching.
You guys do
she's an author. She's working on her second book.
Yes,
so
her book, Sales Tales. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So she and I, funny story is like we actually worked in hotels together. That's how I met her.
Okay.
At the Caesars properties. So she and I met there and just stayed connected and started following her. And when I started the podcast, I'm like, would you want to come on?
Absolutely.
And she was like, absolutely. So no, I love that you guys do it. So I see you guys on LinkedIn and on TikTok as well.
Yes.
So I follow you guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. And it's specifically geared towards hospitality, right?
Primarily like hospitality. Although we interview people from like speakers and other, but our audience is primarily hospitality because that's the worlds we come from.
Right.
Or whatever.
And what's the name of the podcast?
Adventures in Business.
Okay.
And we go live usually 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern time from every Monday on like LinkedIn. We go live and then we release it afterwards. And so,
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about going around to a couple of the MPI events, so you were was it just the MPI SoCal chapter or MPI president for
Southern California chapter. I was chapter president in 2021 and 2022.
Okay.
So middle of the pandemic, having to navigate and weave. But I was chapter president then.
So you've been able to use that platform and all your connections to help promote.
Absolutely. Yes. And if I'm being honest, I probably could have, leveraged that even more.
Right.
But I still can't because I'm a past president. Like we have a conference coming up in San Diego this week that's coming up. So I'll go attend and just try to network and see. But that being a part of MPI on the board really changed the trajectory of my life. And I'll tell you why. So because I was on the board, I was VP of membership. Yes, when I was VP of membership. Yeah. Yes. And we were responsible for recruiting college members. So I went to like Cal State Poly Pomona, Fullerton, Northridge, Long Beach, UNLV, and TESO. So we go around, we speak to all these organizations about getting more student members. Well, Fullerton, I spoke to 2 classes. Then Dr. Kim, I came and helped them out with a project that they were doing or event they were doing in the fall or spring. And then it was like summertime. And I get this email. I was volunteering at this DJ camp for kids. And I get this email saying, we have an open teaching position. Are you interested?
Wow.
And they said, we think your experience matches up well. So I was like, oh, okay. And so I said yes, did the process. And maybe like 2 weeks or a week before school started, they said, okay, you're in. Show up on this day. Here's your class. Here's an old syllabus and a sample test or whatever.
Was it this college course that you're teaching now?
Yeah, well, so I get yes.
Okay.
So what happened is that then I started teaching. I was teaching 2 classes. It was from like 1 to 3:45 and 4 to 7. So it was back to back, 3 hours. Never taught before in the college or high school level. It was daunting, very hard. The first day of class, I showed up 90 minutes, an hour late because I couldn't find parking. It was bad, and
shame on you.
I know. And so then, but I did well. So they asked me back. And then I started to work in the Center for Entertainment Hospitality Management with Dr. Kim. We were like co-directors.
Okay.
And then I saw that there was a really big need for music business. There was a lot of requests that we didn't have any classes. So I created the music business class for the university.
Okay.
It took us 3 years to get it through the system, but we finally got through the system.
Wow.
And so that became another class I taught. Then I had like other department chairs like Dr. Chandler. She would assign me other classes to teach, so I would become an asset to the department so that if one of my other classes was eliminated or cut, I still had other classes I could teach so I could still stay there. So long story short, then what happened is that they said, okay, we like what you're doing here, but you need to have a master's degree if you want to keep teaching.
Ooh.
But we can't pay for you to have your master's unless you're full-time here, but you can't be full-time until you have a master's. So it was kind of ass backwards. So I went to get my master's degree, Berklee College of Music in Boston, and that was during the pandemic, so then I was able to stay. But then also that master's degree helps with my kind of thought leadership and credibility. Yeah. So that's where I say, like, if it wasn't for MPI, I would not be a professor now. And I love it. That's the favorite thing I do. So that's my story.
I love that. It's so, because I've been a part of NACE, National Association of Catering and Events, just launched Heels and Handshakes, the Las Vegas chapter, and I did learn a lot from the associations, right? I was also part of our past president of CSA, Convention Services Association, but that was a local chapter. And I said, I need to, just like what you did with MPI, is be part of something that's nationwide. Yes. So NACE did that and all the opportunities that came, from it. And now launching Heels and Handshakes, a new organization for Las Vegas, we're the first West Coast chapter. So I learned a lot from the other associations and brought it to this new one. And you learn what not to do, right? From the mistakes, but also the opportunities and people that once I launched Heels and Handshakes, everyone's like, hey, what is that? We want to be able to sponsor. So you build your network, from all those years of volunteering with that. So it was worth it for you.
Agreed. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And so then my involvement with MPI got me to get to the national stage and do the digital broadcast with them, because now this is my third year doing it. And
for WEC?
For WEC. So I'm on like an international conference, the digital host and speaking. Right. So it just continues to pay it back.
That's amazing. Yeah. So what would you want to do next in your speaking career? When you talk about speaking,
next speaking is just more like keynotes on bigger stages. Okay. Also, I like to do workshops and things like that. It's just more keynotes for different organizations, because any organization needs help with like resilience or bouncing back, particularly sales focused. Any organization will need assistance or, to be inspired in terms of creativity. So those categories are pretty much like agnostic, so to speak. So just kind of do that more and at the same time use that to grow like my coaching clients. Yeah.
And so with all that you have going on, I don't know how people think I'm busy.
Yes.
But you're literally traveling for all these gigs, which is what I don't do. I don't know how you have the energy.
I don't know either. We've got to get a lot of sleep, go to bed early.
Right?
Yeah, so I'm still, once again, I'm still learning about that too. Just, proper sleep. I think, I used to take a bunch of red eyes because we're coming from the West Coast or the East Coast. I don't think I want to do that anymore because that really messes with your sleep. So just trying to pick up different tips here and there as you're traveling. Like I've never traveled as much as I have the past year and a half. Like never. Well,
I've
for
seen that you
conference.
Like
I've never done as much as I have. So it's good.
But it's opening up more doors for you. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And so when you talk about teaching, I'm big on succession, right? And mentorship. How important do you think that is to mentor the youth? And because, here's the thing. Everyone's like, oh my God, you're so great at events. That's great. But where I'm at, I'm not going to say how old I am, but I'm feeling it. I'm like, these younger kids that are just graduating college, they're the ones that need to be grinding it out, right? What are we going to do to prepare them to take over? Because that's kind of where we're at, which is why I do speak at the schools and the importance of grooming these younger leaders, because they are the next generation of leaders for our industry. Yeah. Now, are you big on like mentoring, not just the coaching? I guess coaching, mentoring is kind of the same thing.
Right.
But how important is that to you, like succession?
Very important. I think particularly for our industry, and I'm talking about like hospitality, events.
Right.
I think we kind of get a little bit of a bad rap because people think it's just about working in a hotel or long hours, low pay.
Right.
So the more we can share our stories with people, people can see all the different events that you've worked at. They're like, oh, that's interesting. Or, people can see just the different places that I've worked or everything. They'll learn more about what's possible instead of what they might read about or what they see. So I think it's important for us to mentor people to help them. Also, I think that nowadays there's a lot of skills that aren't really taught anymore, whether it be kind of networking, as basic as like interview preparation, follow up, how to present yourself, how to make sure that, whatever you post online, people can find and they'll bring that up in an interview. So just how to kind of manage your social media so you're not posting crazy things.
From 20 years ago.
Yeah, and so just that, so that kind of mentor. And then I think, because there's so much stuff that's virtual, interactions with people, simple basics like eye contact, following up with questions, like that's all things that we can help, especially our younger professionals with. And then just making sure that they see the opportunities and that if they do hit a rough patch, they have to understand that life and their career is not linear. Like, you're just not going to go straight up. It's going to be some tips and turns and some ups and downs.
Yeah.
So if we can be there for them and help guide them through that, that would help them not give up when they hit a tough patch also.
Right. Now, with you working with a lot of the youth right now, do you see that they're a little socially awkward?
Yes.
Because, we're like when we hire, I'm like, wow, they're really, they're really like not comfortable speaking in front of
they'd rather be on their phones. Yeah. They don't really know. Just make small talk. We could talk about the weather. We could talk about what's going on in Vegas. Just make small talk. Do research.
Right.
Yeah. And then you gotta keep in mind, and you have to kind of give them some grace because most of the students now were in high school during the pandemic.
That's
so they did a lot of work virtually. So that takes away a lot of interaction. So that's what's going to be the next kind of 3 or 4 years for, everyone, any student that's coming through the next 10 years is going to have to spend some time, maybe 2 years, sometimes 3, virtually learning. And if you take it from 2nd grade all the way up to 12th grade, a lot of students that are graduating this year are so happy because they missed graduation during the pandemic.
Yeah.
They didn't have a prom. They didn't have things.
That
but
was
nowadays,
my oldest daughter.
yeah, no problem. But now you're getting to graduate. You do get a graduation celebration and everything. So we got to give them grace because they have gone through school in a time period where it was virtual, things were crazy. And now we've kind of shifted and now there's so much on our phones and everything that just a simple interaction, a conversation is very difficult. Yeah. So we do got to give them some grace, but we still have high expectations for them too.
Right. It's just, I feel like in our industry, it is important for them to understand that face-to-face meetings, contacts, and just in general, just, talking all the time on a daily is important for your role. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. It's supremely important.
Right.
Everything can't be solved through a text message or a FaceTime.
But you can't just ghost us.
No. Although, see, it's funny you say that because I think, and I always look at both sides. So I think for our students now, particularly ones that are either applying for internships or applying for jobs, for companies ghost students too. They'll be applying for all these jobs and hear nothing. And they take that even more personal than we did when we were coming up because it's just they took them so much effort to put themselves out there to apply for a job and do all that and then to get ghosted.
I was just talking to my daughter about that.
They're like, why would I do that again?
And you're right. And so I kind of had explained to her, I'm like, well, I'm that company that doesn't sometimes I'm horrible at saying, sorry, we went another direction or we're still looking. It's just that's the generation we came from. We're used to just not getting a response sometimes.
Yeah. But nowadays, people post about it and talk about it. So the key is for our young to not take it personal. Not that it's excused, because there's no excuse for that. But
don't take it personal.
Don't take it personal. Keep it moving, because the right job at the right time will write you back and we'll get you in there. Just keep going. So but that's
I love that
so
you
when
brought that
when
up,
you speak about ghosting, there's an unfortunate.
I was just talking to my daughter about that yesterday, and I was like, "Oh, how do I?" Because I'm guilty of it. I, hundreds of applicants at other jobs I was at, and I'm like, "Oh, I'll just get back to them later. I'll send them." And it wasn't until our corporate person said, "Hey, we need to start sending those thank you, but no thank you. We're not, we're moving forward with somebody else."
An email,
just an acknowledgement,
not a text message, just an email, just because. But I get some of these job openings have 5, 6, 10,000 applicants, and that's just what we see online.
It's a lot to go through. It's hundreds.
But they've got to set up some systems. They have the money to do that, so let's go.
Right? Yeah, no, for sure. So I always ask my guests this. And I know we already talked about a quote, but is there a daily affirmation or a quote that you actually like to live by or start your day off with?
So one of my favorite quotes I probably should say it every day, is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, which is in the spirit of like collaboration.
Collaboration. So, I love that. Yeah, no, collaborating. This is a year for a lot of collaboration for me, and it's done very well for me. So yeah, awesome. Yeah. Well, is there anything? So before we go,
yes,
where can people find you on social media?
Okay, so like on the socials, it's at Amani Experience. So that's A like Apple, M like Berry, A like Apple, N like Nancy, I Experience.
Okay.
If you type in on LinkedIn, it's like Amani Roberts DJ, and that'll get you my LinkedIn.
Okay.
And then my website is amaniexperience.com.
Nice. And then the book can be found on Amazon.
Yes. Amazon, if you want to order bulk copies.
And on your website as well. They can take you to the link.
Yeah, take you to the link, the website. So yeah, you can get all that. Or the book has its own website called thequietstormbook.com.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your weekend to do this. I'm glad that we finally were able to schedule this. So any last like words or any tips or advice that you can give to somebody who is actually thinking about getting into the music industry as a DJ?
I would say definitely to pursue it. Try to find some DJs you love and follow kind of them. And then take a class, get some equipment just so you can see what it's like and then see how much you want to get into it. I would say that if you want to do corporate events, like you kind of have to work your way up. It's very hard just to break in and get the big party for Visa or MasterCard or whatever. Google or whatever. It takes time, so stick with it. There are some good DJs out there that will help you kind of mentor you and all that. So try to find them. There's some others that might not, but there's some good DJs out there across the world that will help you. And just, first learn the craft in terms of mixing. There's no substitute for reading a room, but just reading a room and practicing being there. So you can't get that from the bedroom. You got to be live with people to see.
Right.
Because a lot of times there are people that are bedroom DJs. There's DJ in their rooms and their houses never go out. So no, you can go out, learn how to read a room, and just stick with it. There's a lot of ups and downs, but stay resilient and keep moving forward.
Awesome. Do you feel like it's very saturated?
It is. It's quite saturated. There are a lot of DJs out there.
I see them all on TikTok. That's why,
Yes. But when you're in the presence of a good DJ, when they are able to, first of all, successfully mix between a couple songs.
Okay.
They might not be dancing or jumping around, but they're able to mix between songs, between genres, build momentum, keep the dance floor full, cycle through the dance floor. So even though there are a lot of DJs out there and it's very saturated, when you're in the presence of a DJ that knows what they're doing. And so those are the ones that we should hire and, compliment and promote. And, it's okay for the other DJs on TikTok, but once you see someone in person, like give them their flowers, so to speak.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amani.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I loved it, Donna.
Absolutely. And I'll definitely be seeing you around.
Yes, for sure. All right.
All right. Thanks. Bye.